Horror is a unique genre in the world of film. You've got to be honest, ever since we were little kids, we've always wanted to be scared. It's an unsettling feeling, but it's always exhilarating, and there's something satisfying about taking our fears to the limit. Instead of focusing on just one particular movie, I'm going to go ahead and recommend 5 horror films that over the years may have been missed or considered underrated. Hopefully, through this video, you may find a horror movie that piques your interest.
Hey, you forgot the Power Club!
This is not a top 5 list, nor am I saying these movies are the best in the genre. These are just 5 recommendations that I personally like. I try to keep this list as diverse as possible. We have a documentary horror, a psychological horror, a sci-fi horror, a comedy horror, and finally, a romantic horror. So sit back, turn down the lights, and turn up the volume as we take a look at 5 unknown horror classics. Number 5. The documentary horror. The Last Broadcast. It's not the first horror documentary movie, but it was the first to pave the way for future reality horror films, such as The Blair Witch Project. Unlike other found footage horror films that would later be popular, it doesn't take place through the eyes of the victims, and instead focuses on the investigation after the murder events.
No, this guy is definitely DOA.
One body we found approximately 2.5 miles from the campsite. The other body we found approximately 3 miles from the campsite.
The body of Stephen Avcast was never found. Large amounts of blood in the snow and a hat were all that remained of this third victim.
The beginning already informs us of the horrific murder of a local TV crew while searching in the New Jersey Pine Barrens in search of the Jersey Devil monster.
Why don't you do a show about the Jersey Devil?
Only one person comes out of the woods, and he's convicted of the murders, being that he's the only one alive. The film documents on the events and slowly uncovers evidence after evidence, suggesting that the convicted person may not be the murderer, but instead something else. Thus, the film follows the traditional format of a documentary, which includes narration, B-roll, and interviews.
I'd come to this project with many of the same assumptions that you have concerning the Jersey Devil murders, as they said on Fact or Fiction. You decide.
The realism comes from the atmosphere the film conveys. The low monotone voice of the narrator gives a very unsettling presence in the film.
As I watch these frames, though, I see no recognition in Locus's face. I see Locus, a man larger than Stephen, turn tail and run, as does Ryan.
The desaturated digital video degrade also gives more of a scarred, creepy look. The video editing takes very special notice because of its ability to create an unnerving pace and atmosphere.
I mean, what is the truth? The editing process it's like sifting that stuff out.
The mistakes that were discovered on this journey were stunning. Shoddy police work and a judgmental video presented the world with a person guilty before ever being tried.
The ending, some people may like, while others may find it a bit disappointing. Personally, I prefer to be left in the dark unknown and leave some things unanswered when it comes to creepy stories like this. But the twist in the end is rather interesting and gives you a new disturbing perspective while watching the movie a second time through. James Rolfe, host of Cinemassacre Monster Madness reviews, also focused on this movie in one of his episodes. If you have time, go ahead and check his movie review out. In the end, The Last Broadcast is a movie that launched the independent viral video age and still holds up as a creepy film experience. Number 4. The psychological horror. In the Mouth of Madness. Gotta include John Carpenter in this list. This is the perfect film that captures the atmosphere of H.P. Lovecraft. While the movie is not based on one particular Lovecraft story per se, it does portray the world in the true surreal Lovecraft way. Sam Neill plays an insurance investigator, John Trent, who's hired by a publishing company to track down the world's most popular novel writer, Sutter Kane, who's mysteriously gone missing. The story surrounds itself around Kane's new book named In the Mouth of Madness, which becomes the most popular book in the world and is discovered to drive readers to insanity and homicidal tendencies. The movie shows the horror of what happens when a society accepts fiction over fact, and when a mass majority becomes influenced by popular fiction.
No one's ever believed it enough to make it real. The same cannot be said of my work.
Your book sounds real.
But they've sold over 1 billion copies. I've been translated into 18 languages. More people believe in my work than believe in the Bible.
During the mid-90s, when In the Mouth of Madness came out, we saw a lack of popularity in horror films, and wasn't revived until movies such as Scream came out in 1996. It was highly overlooked, and was supposed to be the comeback movie for John Carpenter. Like Scream, the movie and its characters perfectly acknowledge the horror cliches that they seem to have been thrown in, and satires the horror genre as part of its story.
This is not a Sutter Kane story. This is not reality. Not reality. Not reality. This is reality.
We know that these stories aren't real, but when we begin to make it real, does the horror come to life? And that's where the genius of In the Mouth of Madness lies. 2 minor complaints. The first half of the film is a little slow and long, but the second half is where the movie delivers. And the second complaint, the film is overdosed with way too many jump scares. It does come a bit repetitive. The ending is absolute genius. It's one of the best endings ever made in film and is one of the main reasons to watch the movie. It's both disturbing and hysterical at the same time. Recommendation though, watch the movie fully from beginning to end in order to get the full effect. By the end, you will be laughing insanely as your mind is taken over by pure madness.